is Western Mass News.
MGM Springfield in the headlines following a Bloomberg report that MGM Resorts International is exploring the sale of the casino. We take a look forward. Good Thursday evening, everyone, and welcome to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Abby Carnevale. And because of that announcement, we've got team coverage for you tonight regarding the potential sale. And Western Mass News reporter Reagan Lokri has more on how the sale could impact local communities. But first, Matt Price is hearing from state and local leaders about where their hopes are if there is an actual sale. Matt, what did you hear today?
Well, Abby and Chris, first, Mayor Dominic Sarno tells me there is nothing official about any of this, and he's still looking for answers himself. Meanwhile, two state lawmakers I spoke with say they would rather have anyone who is not MGM having control of the property as long as they meet the requirements from the city.
It is so. I hope the Gaming Commission and the Mass delegation hold their feet to the fire on the license.
State Representative Bud Williams wasting no time sharing his thoughts on what should happen with MGM Springfield should there be a sale of the property. This after a report from Bloomberg came out on Wednesday saying MGM was exploring this particular option for the local casino. It also says the company is working with financial advisors, but nothing is certain at the moment. Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno tells Western Mass News he will have no flexibility on the community host agreement between MGM and the city should something happen in the future.
All roads go through here because the Mass Gaming Commission will rely heavily on the chief executive officer, he or she, where these gaming entertainment complexes are housed, on that.
Lawmakers Western Mass News spoke to on Thursday say they do not want the casino to go away completely. State Representative Angelo Pupolo Jr. is among those calling for new leadership, even if it's someone from the local area.
Anybody that comes in and buys this casino has to live up to the obligations, has to respect the host city agreement, as well as the surrounding communities. I mean, there's a lot of cities and towns around here that are depending on some of the financial assistance that the casino is providing. That cannot stop.
We had a few moments with Springfield City Councilor at Large, Brian Santinello, who wants to see how things play out, as MGM has only told Western Mass News that they do not comment on rumors. But if a sale does happen, he would like to see a company that is on the same level as MGM and wants the employees taken care of. However, he also expressed concern.
We rely heavily on that $25 million that comes in, and obviously there's 1,800 to 2,000 jobs that are at stake here.
Meanwhile, Mayor Sarno has this message for the community.
If something is to happen that is different, I will show no flexibility with that community host agreement, and actually I'll probably look to get more for the residents and the business community if something was to occur.
And Mayor Sarno tells us he has spoken with MGM Resorts International President Bill Hornbuckle, who has agreed to meet the mayor at City Hall in the very near future to discuss this further. Reporting live in the studio, Matt Price, Western Mass News.
All right, Matt, thank you.